Coming up on InfoSecSync, we start with some breaking news. A massive internet outage affecting some of the nation's largest corporations. The U.S. and other nations taking a stand against China for recent cyber attacks. And a bill heads to the Senate that forces victims of cybercrime to immediately report it to the government. Also ahead, apple of their eye, cybercriminals targeting MACOS systems more than ever. We'll tell you why. Plus, spyware intended to catch the bad guys turned on iPhones used by journalists and others, or on what Apple has to say about its iPhone security. So get ready to get in sync with InfoSecSync.
You're watching the InfoSecSync Weekly News with Nick Thomas and news anchor Leyla Gulen, sponsored by Axellio. Threat detection and response done right. Axellio.
Welcome to the InfoSecSync Weekly News for week ending July 23rd, 2021. I'm Leyla Gulen with your host, Nick Thomas. Good to see you, Nick.
Good to see you, Leyla.
Well, we're going to start with that major development. Massive internet disruption affecting some of the nation's largest corporations has now been fixed. McDonald's, FedEx, Delta Airlines, and HSBC were just some of the companies that reported the outage. The system disruptions were linked to Akamai and Oracle, two providers of internet infrastructure services. Akamai's Edge DNS service helps route web browsers to their correct destinations and also provides a security service. The outage was caused by a software configuration update, triggering a bug in the DNS system and not the result of a cyber attack. We need to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Are you concerned the next news headline on a security breach includes your company name? In a recent IBM cyber report, 51% of all interviewed organizations reported a significant business disruption during the past 2 years due to a cybersecurity incident. While organizations using 50-plus security tools rank themselves lower in their ability to detect and respond to an attack, with the average security operation team using 70 tools. If more tools and data are not the answer, what can you do? Axellio works with you to optimize a threat detection and response solution to fit your environment to prevent tool and data overload. We leverage and optimize your existing infrastructure, enhanced with the Axellio platform as necessary, utilizing open source solutions where applicable. And we work closely with you to deploy, configure, document, and educate your team. Axellio, let's create the right security solution for your environment.
Welcome back. China is accused of using cyber criminals to conduct worldwide espionage. The Biden administration, along with the EU and NATO, are holding China responsible for numerous attacks against Microsoft. They say the hackers are affiliated with China's Ministry of State Security and have conducted malicious operations both for the government and for their own personal gain. The White House says criminal hackers associated with the MSS have engaged in ransomware attacks, cryptojacking, and rank theft from organizations around the world for the past several years. And the U.S. Department of Justice recently unsealed indictments against 4 individuals linked to hacking group APT40 for allegedly working for MSS in a multi-year campaign to steal intellectual property, trade secrets, and other sensitive data from organizations in the maritime, aviation, defense, and other sectors. This week's announcement was the first time that the U.S. has publicly accused the Chinese government of using contract hackers to do its spy work. What do you think about that, Nick? Do you think this public announcement is going to deter bad actors from continuing their enterprise?
Absolutely not. There's too much money to be made, and they've got the smarts to do it at the time and the money, so it's not going away. They're going to continue their bad acting.
What do you think the motivation was to make this bold announcement for the world to hear and see?
I think we're tired of being hacked, and we're tired of the ransomware, and we're showing the world that we're not going to take that anymore.
All right. Well, moving on, millions of dollars is up for grabs for anyone with information on cyber attacks against critical infrastructure by another government. The United States says it will pay up to $10 million if the attack violates the nation's anti-hacking statute known as the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. The State Department's Rewards for Justice Office will run the program. The Tor-based tip channel is set up to receive information on potential foreign-directed hacking that includes ransomware, extortion, and transmitting malicious code. The bounty offer comes as cyber attacks against U.S. and European infrastructure and companies have ratcheted up. Not everyone is sold on the program. Experts say that while the program will likely produce leads, sifting through those leads will find verifiable evidence but will consume a lot of resources. The program has existed for 37 years and has paid more than $200 million to more than 100 people worldwide who provided information on terrorist threats and threats to national security. So, Nick, do you agree that this will cost exponentially more than the bounty itself to sift through the lead?
You know, depending on the amount of the ransomware, it could or it could not. I definitely know it's going to take a lot of people to go through, so it's going to take a lot of money. But you know, we are a wealthy nation, so that's good for that.
I was just curious too how the department expects to keep up with cyber attacks becoming so prevalent. We hear about them every day now.
Yeah, so luckily the Biden administration has the executive order he recently put out within the past couple months. We have a cyber director now we've never had before, so I'm sure they're ramping things up to take care of this, along with things that they normally take care of in CISA and DHS and everything they do for ransomware and cyber.
All right, perfect. Well, this is a great segue. President Biden plans on meeting with the private sector next month in an effort to curb ransomware attacks. The August meeting comes as the White House scrambles to help companies protect against attacks from Russia and Chinese-based criminal syndicates. The administration has already been working with the private sector on cybersecurity with a new initiative. It aims at improving standards for critical sectors like electricity and work with Microsoft after a global hack detected earlier this year that affected tens of thousands of computer systems. Well, certain cybercrime victims are now required to report attacks to the government, according to a new bill. A bipartisan group of senators introduced the Cyber Incident Notification Act that would give federal agencies, government contractors, and critical infrastructure owners and operators just 24 hours to report breaches to the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. Several lawmakers have been pursuing bills on this front since February, following the SolarWinds espionage campaigns. They say the government and public only found out about the massive hacking enterprise because cybersecurity firm FireEye identified and reported the campaign. Had they not done so, lawmakers fear critical infrastructure and government facilities would still be vulnerable. Lawmakers say the bill will provide limited legal protections for the companies that report breaches to CISA. The bill has its critics. FireEye contends that rather than require companies to report breaches, the duty should fall on the first responders who see a potential national security threat. This would include incident response firms or other contractors. The bill comes the same day the House passed a $500 million grant program for state and local governments to shore up security. So do you think that this bill is going to be helpful in the long run, Nick?
I think in the long run, yes. We have to see how things play out. I do find it interesting that FireEye had stated that the duty should fall on all, quote, first responders who see a potential national security threat. So usually that's the people that go in when a company calls them because they don't have the infrastructure or the people themselves to handle the breach. Those would be the first responders, and those are usually the people, the men and women that are actually trained and know what they're looking at. So I kind of agree with that as well.
Okay. What would be considered an example of a first responder? What particular companies are out there?
Oh, FireEye is one. Mandiant is one. Some other companies are getting into the cyber game. Rendition InfoSec is another one. I did a podcast with those guys a couple weeks ago. So it's those companies that would be the first responders.
Oh, very interesting. Well, there are now new requirements for U.S. pipeline operators to bolster their cybersecurity. This comes on the heels of the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack that disrupted gas delivery across the East Coast. The Department of Homeland Security is asking operators of federally designated critical pipelines to implement specific mitigation measures to prevent ransomware attacks and other cyber intrusions. The government also disclosed that Chinese government-linked intruders targeted 23 natural gas pipeline operators between 2011 and 2013. 13 of those attacks were confirmed intrusions. The Colonial attack led to the shutdown of a system delivering about 45% of the gas consumed along the East Coast, sparking gas shortages in several states. Colonial paid an estimated $4.5 million to get back up and running, most of which had been returned.
InfoSecSync is brought to you by Excelio. Excelio provides economic, end-to-end cybersecurity threat detection and response solutions designed for your team, environment, and security objectives, providing packet-level visibility across your network. Visit them on the web at excelio.com. That's AXELLIO.com.
Welcome back. At least 2 government-backed actors are blamed for more zero-day exploits. 2 of the exploits targeted flaws in Chrome, 1 targeted a vulnerability in Internet Explorer, and the 4th affected Safari. All 4 of the issues have been patched. According to Google, a vendor of commercial surveillance software appears to have developed 3 of the exploits. The attacks seem to have originated from a Russian group believed to be the same one behind the SolarWinds campaign. Experts say zero-day attacks are increasing because they offer the path of the least resistance for threat actors. There has also been a growth of exploits against mobile devices due to high usage. So do you think that we're going to see more issues with our mobile devices?
Oh, definitely. In this day and age and the terrain, everyone has a mobile device, from kids to the elderly. So that's the easiest, that's the low-hanging fruit to go after mobile devices.
Yeah, indeed. The world woke up Tuesday to 2 new vulnerabilities, one in Windows and the other in Linux. This allowed hackers to bypass operating system security restrictions and access sensitive resources. As these OSs and applications become harder to hack, a successful attack typically requires 2 or more vulnerabilities. One vulnerability allows the attacker to access low-privileged OS resources, whereas a second elevates that code, execution, or file access to OS resources reserved for password storage or other sensitive operations. The Windows vulnerability came to light by accident when a researcher observed what he believed was a coding regression in a beta version of the upcoming Windows 11. As for Linux, the security flaw allows an untrusted user to gain unfettered system rights by creating, mounting, and deleting a deep directory structure with a total path length that exceeds 1 gigabyte. So for the latter vulnerability, Nick, what exactly would the threat be of deleting that structure, that directory structure?
So actually what's going on here, Leyla, that proc self mount info file, that is what tells the computer, I have 3 drives available for you to use, so use C, D, and E. And what the actor is doing is building a path that is so long on your system you would never find it, and placing the malicious file in there, doing what they need to do on your system, and then deleting it back out so you would never know it was there.
Oh, wow. And then what did they gain in the process?
Gain access to your machine, able to pull anything away from it they want to. Basically, whatever they want to do with your box, they have control of it, if they're able to get in and do what they need to do.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. Well, a warning out of France. The French National Agency for the Security of Information Systems has issued an alert over compromised routers. The threat group, tracked as APT31, is being accused of a large intrusion campaign that has impacted many organizations in France. Targets have included government entities, political figures, contractors, and service providers in European countries, including Finland's parliament. The French authorities say roughly 160 IP addresses are associated associated with devices mostly located in Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Approximately 1/3 of the devices appear to be located in Russia. Remote VPN company PulseSecure has been the target of a malware attack. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has published a new alert warning of 13 malware samples related to exploited PulseSecure devices. CISA warned that threat actors have been exploiting 4 vulnerabilities, including one zero-day flaw back in April. The agency warned at that time that the attacks had targeted U.S. government agencies, critical infrastructure organizations, and private sector companies since at least June 2020. In most cases, the malicious files are modified versions of PulseSecure system applications. An investigation revealed the attackers deployed web shells, Trojans, credential harvesters, and utilities, which enabled them to execute arbitrary commands. At least 2 China-linked groups are suspected of exploiting PulseSecure flaws for initial access.
InfoSecSync is brought to you by Excelio. Excelio provides economic, end-to-end cybersecurity threat detection and response solutions designed for your team, environment, and security objectives, providing packet-level visibility across your network. Visit them on the web at excelio.com. That's AXELLIO.com.
Apple is in the crosshairs of cybercriminals hoping to take down their macOS devices. Recent reports show multiple occurrences of Windows-focused malware called Xloader is designed to steal information and credentials from different web browsers. The Xloader is a widespread and inexpensive form of malware, as cheap as under $50, that was originally written to infect Windows machines. It stems from Formbook, which is among the most common types of malware and has been active for at least 5 years. Xloader is usually spread via spoofed emails that trick victims into downloading and opening a malicious file, typically Microsoft Office documents. Apple sold 20 million Mac and MacBook devices last year. Data shows the growth in Mac use is appealing to criminals seeking to diversify their targets. While this research focuses on Mac OS, iPhone users should also be diligent about protecting their devices and applying security fixes. So this is something that we've talked about in the past, Nick, is that even though Apple is touted to be so very secure, more and more people are using these systems.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone loves Apple, so the crooks are looking at new terrain, so they see that rising, and they're going to start going after the Mac OSs.
So this means that we shouldn't be taking our guard down when they say that you need to update for security fixes and things like that, to make sure to do so.
Yeah, make sure you're always updating your iPhone and your Mac.
Okay, very good. Well, 2 vulnerabilities affecting Linux kernels have allowed an unprivileged user to gain root access to the operating system. The issue dates back to August 2014 with version 3.16 and allows a malicious user to turn a local unprivileged user account into a super user account. The Linux kernel, the core software that manages Linux systems, has come under increasing scrutiny by security researchers. In 2016 and 2018, Qualys and another security firm found other kernel vulnerabilities that would allow an attacker to escalate privileges. Experts say the latest vulnerability is not considered critical, but it should be patched as soon as possible. Spyware designed to catch terrorists and criminals has infected smartphones belonging to more than 36 journalists, human rights activists, and business executives. The handsets were infected with Pegasus, a full-featured spyware developed by Israel-based NSO Group. The exploit seller has come under intense scrutiny in recent years after repressive governments in the United Arab Emirates, Mexico, and other countries have been found using the malware against journalists, activists, and other groups not affiliated with terrorism or crime. Pegasus is frequently installed through zero-click exploits, such as those sent by text messages, which require no interaction from victims. Pegasus immediately accesses and copies call histories, text messages, calendar entries, and contacts. It is capable of activating the cameras and microphones of compromised phones to eavesdrop on nearby activities. It can also track a target's movements and steal messages from end-to-end encrypted chat apps. This is downright frightening to think that they have access to basically everything that you've got on your iPhone. And of course, Apple also released their response to this story.
Leyla, Ivan Kristic, head of Apple Security Engineering and Architecture, he put a statement out and he said Apple unequivocally condemns cyber attacks against journalists, human rights activists, and others seeking to make the world a better place. He also notes that attacks such as the ones detailed by the Amnesty International report are incredibly sophisticated and are not a threat to the overwhelming majority of iPhone users. And keep in mind, keep your iPhone updated. That's basically all you need to do. Don't click on ads that you might get or text messages that you're not expecting, or packages like I think one you get all the time is FedEx or UPS. Your package has arrived. Here's the tracking. Click here. So just avoid doing that, and you'll be good.
Well, finally, a British man is facing charges in a Twitter hack that compromised accounts of prominent politicians, including former President Barack Obama, celebrities, and tech moguls last year. 22-year-old Joseph O'Connor was arrested in Spain and accused of hacking more than 130 accounts. O'Connor, who goes by the online handle PlugWalkJoe, faces charges including cyber stalking, making extortive and threatening communications, and intentionally accessing a computer without authorization. That's going to do it for us here. On behalf of Nick Thomas, you are now in sync with InfoSecSync. We'll see you again next week.
Are you concerned the next news headline on a security breach includes your company name? In a recent IBM cyber report, 51% of all interviewed organizations reported a significant business disruption during the past 2 years due to a cybersecurity incident, while organizations using 50-plus security tools rank themselves lower in their ability to detect and respond to an attack, with the average security operation team using 70 tools. If more tools and data are not the answer, what can you do? Excelio works with you to optimize a threat detection and response solution to fit your environment to prevent tool and data overload. We leverage and optimize your existing infrastructure, enhanced with the Excelio platform as necessary, utilizing open source solutions where applicable. And we work closely with you to deploy, configure, document, and educate your team. Excelio, let's create the right security solution for your environment.